Batman: Mask of the Phantasm is the ultimate Batman story. It deals with heartbreak, loneliness, purpose, and drive. Everything that makes Batman such an intriguing and fleshed out character. Many Batman depictions, whether it be comics or movies, focus only on the villains more so than Bruce Wayne and Batman. But this film does what I absolutely love with the character for Batman, which is diving into his purpose and why Bruce Wayne became Batman. For me, I'm a fan of the earlier days of Batman since it allows the story to capitalize on Bruce's determination and emotion. With other stories including other members of the Bat family, this drive and purpose sort of loses itself. The film was produced by the same team that put together Batman the Animated Series, so coming into it, you know it's going to be pretty good. This movie, along with the animated series, are easily some of my favorite depictions of Batman, along, of course, with the Arkham games. It has everything I want and then some. The atmosphere, the writing, and the relationship between Alfred and Batman are absolutely perfect. For the plot, I'm just going to try and explain all the major details in order to do the story justice and to also help explain the full story. So the film opens up with Batman swinging into a meeting full of criminals, and after taking some down, Chucky Soul gets away and runs into a new character introduced in this movie, the Phantasm, who ultimately ends Chucky Soul's life, but everyone thinks it was Batman and that he had just gone crazy. Soon after these events, a woman named Andrea Beaumont is introduced while on a plane heading back to Gotham, and right away it is clear that Bruce and her have some history. We soon learn through a flashback that Bruce and Andrea met at a cemetery, both grieving the deaths of their departed loved ones. Bruce talking to both his mom and dad, while Andrea was talking to her mother. The two hit it off as they each have something in common and easily formed a connection. This scene also teases at the fact of Bruce making a vow to his parents, which brings us to one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Bruce, who at this time is very early in his crime-fighting career, is dressed up in a makeshift outfit while attempting to stop some thugs who have a cop as a hostage. It gives a view of just how inexperienced and reckless Bruce was early in his career, very similar to Batman Year One by Frank Miller. It also touches on the theme of Batman being more than just someone who beats up people. He needs to be scary, he needs to impose fear, and he needs to be a symbol. We are then taken back to the present with the Phantasm encountering some of Chucky's crew at the cemetery again. It is at this point that we realize the Phantasm has a motive to take down specific members of the mob, which establishes the first main connection between the Phantasm and Batman. However, in a more fatal way. After these events, Batman inspects the site and sees Andrea. Coincidentally, Batman was standing in front of his parents' grave, which leads Andrea to believe that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Seeing Andrea again after 10 years, Bruce is reminded of the past he once had with her, filled with joy and complete vulnerability. Andrea helps make the death of his parents fade away and helps him think of a future of happiness and not grieving. When Bruce meets Andrea's father, it's clear that he's involved in something that's bigger than he can handle. As someone walks in, he becomes very nervous and frightened, only leading the viewer to suspect that this person is involved in some sort of mob. This event and a brawl with a few thugs outside inspire Bruce to question what he's doing with his life. How can he risk his life and devote himself to dangerous nights while he has someone who waits for him to come home to? This question is what drives this story. It is what fuels Bruce and allows him to dive deeper into what Batman means to him.
I don't care anymore. I don't want to let you down, honest, but it just doesn't hurt so bad anymore. You can understand that, can't you? Look, I can give money to the city. They can hire more cops. Let someone else take the risk. But it's different now.
Cutting back to the present, Batman is investigating the Phantasm's recent actions and is determined to get to the bottom of it. Soon enough, he uncovers the truth about Andrea's father and his death. Then it cuts back in time to Bruce proposing and, in theory, giving up the Batman. After dropping Andrea off after the big decision, he recognizes one of the shady guys from meeting her father earlier, and the story mysteriously cuts to Bruce receiving a note from Andrea stating that she can't get married and needs to leave with her father. This note leaves Bruce with no choice, no chance of being happy anymore. He has to fall back to the vow he made to his parents, to be Batman. We then are switched to see Batman chasing down the Phantasm, ultimately getting chased by the cops who still suspect that Batman is the killer. The chase ends with Andrea showing up and driving Bruce off to Wayne Manor to be safe. After collecting himself, Bruce questions Andrea and why she is being secretive about her father. We are then shown what happened that night when Bruce proposed. Andrea's father had gotten involved with some bad people, and the only way to escape was go on the run and take Andrea with him, ultimately away from Bruce. This brings back emotion for the two and leads them to regaining their connection. And then this leads to Bruce once again questioning his commitment to being the Batman. While thinking of his future, Bruce views a photo and realizes a haunting fact. The shady guy that I've been talking about for most of the description is actually the Joker, the person that is almost closely related to every single thing about Andrea's father is the Joker. This realization brings even more connection to Andrea's situation and the Phantasm's victims. A flashback shows the shady guy, pre-Joker, walking out of Andrea's house for her to discover her father dead. This connection, along with the build-up, leads the story to unveil Andrea as the Phantasm, who through the story methodically picked off people involved in her father's death. The final act consists of Andrea going after the Joker to eliminate her final target of people closely associated to her father's death. By this time, Batman has put together the pieces and arrives to the fight just in time to save Andrea. Then, confronting Andrea, her true motives are revealed and there's an emotional argument about vengeance and what it has done to both Bruce and Andrea. Bruce begs Andrea to not kill the Joker, but she's numb with pain and it's the only way to heal that. The battle ends with Bruce believing that Andrea and Joker both died in the explosions. Bruce, believing Andrea to be dead, has nothing left to keep him back from holding back on his vow. Nothing left to keep him back from becoming fully encapsulated by Batman. The final shot of a grieving Bruce standing on the rooftops remains one of my favorite scenes of all time. In the end, this story is a beautiful portrayal of Batman and his purpose. It's a story of questioning and analyzing Batman's why. Filled with anger, sadness, and grief, Bruce is shown a life of happiness through Andrea, who helps to numb his pain. This new happiness leads him to question whether he wants to live a life constantly trying to numb his pain by becoming Batman, or to simply give in to the happiness shown through a life with Andrea. Also, the Phantasm is overall just a cool villain idea. Cool suit, cool backstory, and cool connections to other villains. Plus, the fact that we got to see the Joker and a potential part of his backstory is always cool too. One of my favorite movies of all time, and is what I believe to be the greatest analysis of Bruce's character.